Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go!
Yeah, baby, yeah. Hello, YouTube. How you guys doing? Mr. Finn back with another live. Well, I want to start off by apologizing, I'm trying to do these lives on Tuesday nights. And yesterday was impossible. I had to give a makeup class at the time I would go live. And I kind of committed myself, I'll go Wednesday night because I do give classes on Wednesday night until 8, and I figure I'd get home in time. And so I scheduled myself and talked and spoke in the community tab of my channel that, I'll be on 9 p.m. And look, it's almost 9:40. So it's tough, guys. I got a family, I got things, and sometimes things don't work out, but I promise to be better. So I didn't even get a chance to advertise this. So I'm talking to the future people who are going to watch this video and they click on it after I save it on my channel, which is fine. So what I want to do today is I want to get into what I couldn't get into last week. And what is that? The art of conversation. How to start and maintain conversation. You see, so last week, I wanted to get in the subject on how it's done effectively, because starting conversations is a very intimidating thing for most people. There are only a few people that I know of who can do it naturally, but I guarantee even those people had to work at it. So this is something I believe anybody can do. That means you. But there are a few things that you have to take in consideration when it comes to starting a conversation. Now, that is what I ended up getting into last week. If you haven't seen that video, I suggest that you watch it. You don't have to watch it before this video, but watch it because I put the link in the description. That video is basically about how to build confidence, charisma, and charm, because in my opinion, those are the 3 most important tools that you need to have when you want to start a conversation. Because think about it, you're putting yourself out there, you're basically exposing yourself. So to do something like that, you have to have some confidence, and this is not something that comes easily to many people. So it's really important that if this is something you want to do, if you find yourself like you want to be a person who can meet other people, if you want to be a person that can go into nearly any situation, work or social, school, party, supermarket, shopping mall, wherever. And if you want to just talk to random people, start a conversation, you're going to need to have confidence. And that is what I covered in the last video. But not only confidence is important, but you have to be charismatic. You have to have charisma. You have to know how to be charming, get people's attention, make yourself enjoyable to be around. And these are the things that I guarantee you, if you're able to acquire these skills, you will be able to start a conversation. Now, so today I want to focus mainly on the conversations, right? So how to start a conversation. This can depend on where you are. It can. Not necessarily, but it can. Because depending on where you are, it's going to determine the kinds of things you're going to start out with when it comes to approaching somebody to have a conversation. But you got to think of conversation as it's a skill, it's an art, right? And the art, and that's why I named this video, right? The art of a conversation, it's like any other art. It's a skill of that you can acquire and you can use, but it's a skill of elegance, right? And a creative execution and how you do this. Now, I'm a person that believes that there is an art to literally everything that we do, right? I mean, some people could do things like you could say two people who do the same thing, but they do it totally differently. And this is where I get this idea that there is an art to everything we do. And why not? I mean, without kind of flair, without kind of positive energy, things become drudgery. They become like boring. I think one of the reasons why I have been successful as an English teacher is because I make it an effort. I make it a specific point when I'm giving the classes to be dynamic and energetic, have fun. So you see, when you're going to have a conversation, and conversation skills, they can be developed and mastered, even if you're a person who doesn't know how to do it or a person who is shy, right? Now, this is interesting because when it comes to this art of a conversation, we've met people who seem to just really have a natural talent for this. And they could talk to anybody about anything, and they seem to do it without any problem. They're completely comfortable. I like to think that I am one of these kinds of people, right? But the more that I've done it, the easier it's come to me, right? So this is the idea behind this focus of helping you being able to get in the conversation. Now, when I talk about this, okay, I talk about the importance of being so to have the ability to start a conversation, you have to have this confidence, but you also need to learn how to be a good communicator. And you have to be able to know and identify exactly where you are, who you're talking to, because this is going to have an effect on the words that you use and things like that. Now, conversation is a form of communication, right? However, it is usually more spontaneous and less formal than let's say a presentation, a conference. I have experience teaching people how to give speeches, preparing them for conventions. And when you do this, there's preparation involved. You prepare your talk, your arguments. You think about questions people are going to ask so you can be prepared for them. But a conversation typically is spontaneous because first, it's less formal. Right? You're doing this at coffee bars, or I find myself in conversations at the supermarket, at the shopping mall, places like this, right? We enter conversations for purposes, of pleasant engagement. You want to meet new people. You want to find out information. You want to enjoy social interactions. I often do this sometimes, like at the supermarket, where let's say it's a long line. Now, nowadays, it's kind of harder because everybody has their face in their phone. Now, unless you're watching English with Mr. Finn videos, I suggest, put the phone away and start a conversation. So I like to do this sometimes. Now, it's important that when you do this and you open up yourself to these conversations, make sure you get the correct vibe from the people, because sometimes people, this happens to me. You start a conversation and people just look at you like, all right, I don't want to talk. Leave me alone. And I will admit I'm guilty about this sometimes, but typically it's either when I'm tired, stressed, or a lot of times when I'm traveling. Like, let's say it's late at night in a plane and someone wants to talk. I'm like, come on. So if you're going to be starting conversations, remember, know who you are or know where you are, and make sure when you try to start the conversation, get vibes, get that feeling back from the people. Because if they will let you know with their body language if they're open to this idea of talking to you. Now, all right. Now, as far as types of conversation, they vary anywhere from intellectual conversations and information exchanges, to a friendly debate, and sometimes even witty banter. Now, if you don't know what witty banter means, that's like that playful talk that you have with friends, typically between guys, right? Now, while there's more to having good conversation skills and being a comedian or dramatic actor or a great storyteller, it is necessary to become more gregarious, animated, outgoing. And that is what I'm talking about specifically in the last video, what it means to having confidence, because that's the only way you're really going to have these kinds of attributes of being outgoing, animated, right? Now, you can develop this ability. And one of the most important abilities that you need to have when you do start the conversation, let's say you've acquired that confidence, let's say you're putting yourself out there, but you need to develop the ability to listen attentively. What I like to call, or what was said a lot growing up, active listening. And what is active listening? That's when you're actually looking at the person who's talking to you. Okay? Don't just wait for your turn to talk. Don't make it like a debate and you're just waiting for the person to stop talking and you get your piece in. No. Talk and listen. And that is really important, is listening. So you want to listen attentively. And you're listening for what? You're listening for answers to questions that you ask, right? So getting into this conversation, how to start a conversation, you need to have confidence. Don't really care about what other people think so much. And this goes back to my last video about having that confidence. Be yourself. Don't pretend to be somebody else. And once you get the conversation started, remember, lots of times it's just simply introducing yourself. Hey, how's it going? My name is Michael. What's your name? And you listen. And then the best way, in my opinion, to start conversations is to ask questions. Okay? So you're going to ask Mr. Finn, what kinds of questions should I ask? Well, before I start getting into this topic of what kinds of questions you should ask and what kinds of questions you should avoid, let's get into this idea of questions. Now, as an English teacher, I can easily divide questions into two different camps. Okay? We have what I like to call open questions and what I like to call to have closed questions. What's the difference between the two? Closed questions are dead-end questions. Closed questions are questions that you want to avoid a conversation. You want to avoid using in a conversation unless you really don't want the conversation to go anywhere. Or if someone's trying to starting a conversation, let me slow down. Or if someone tries to start a conversation with you and you kind of don't want to be rude, but you want to not let this conversation carry on very long, you yourself use closed questions. So hopefully I built up the anticipation. You're like, all right, Mr. Finn, but what is it? What is the difference between open questions and closed questions? Well, let me explain it like this. Closed questions are questions that you only get a yes and no answer. Are you okay? Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Okay? You just have two options. Do you like the music? Yes, I do. Or no, I don't. So now what do you do? Like, how are you going to take the conversation further? Do you want another drink? Yes, I do. No, I don't. You see, so if you're gonna start a conversation and you think, okay, yeah, Mr. Finn said use questions, don't ask questions like this. You want to ask open questions, right? You want to ask open questions. And what are the open questions? The open questions use the question words, right? Do you know what the question words are? Who, what, where, when, why, how, right? These are the open questions. These are the questions that if you start a question with these words, who, what, where, when, why, and how, now you are starting to lay the groundwork to carry a conversation on for a long time. So you're going to say, okay, Mr. Finn, what makes this an open question? Well, look at the difference between, do you like this? Do you like this drink? Yes or no. To, what kind of drink do you like? Now, instead of yes or no, the person's gonna, they have a whole option of drinks. Oh, I like beer. Now, this is where the listening comes in. So you got to pay attention to the answer that's being given to think of other questions. And that's how you create the conversation. You're building like a blockchain. You know, you start off with a good foundation with a good question, and then you listen. And as the person you're talking to answers your question, you're paying attention. And in your mind, you're starting to create other questions. So let's think, you know, we're at a bar, we're at a club. What kind of drink do you like? Oh, I like beer. Oh, nice, really? I like beer too. What's your preference, or what's your beer of choice? Or what's your favorite beer? Oh, I like Heineken. A lot of people here in Brazil like Heineken. I'll be like, oh, cool. I like Heineken too. It's not my favorite. I like this. I like that. What do you think? What do you think of this beer? Oh, that beer is good. You see, so from that one question, we start creating this chain link of different questions. You can continue to ask questions. You can give your own input on that question or the answer that was given. And this is what I mean when I say open questions are the best way to starting a conversation with the hopes of that conversation to keep going further, to keep going on. Now, talking about conversations, I want to help you when it comes to building questions, because as an English teacher with an English channel, I want to focus on structure and stuff that give you guys the tools you need to get what you need done. Now, that doesn't mean people who are native to the language can't get benefits from this. They can, because I've seen too many people make too many mistakes too often. So here we go. Open questions versus closed questions. Now, there is a structure that you can learn, that you can memorize, that can help you if you find yourself stuck on how to formulate a question, how to put the words in the order. Because in English grammar, there is a structure, there is an appropriate way to sequence your words and to make an accurate question. And I've divided this into two different categories. We have what I like to say quasi for the open questions, and Ozzy for the closed questions. So you're like, what is this quasi and Ozzy? Well, these are acronyms. And what are acronyms? Acronyms are when you take the first letter of a word, right, and you put them together, like FBI, NFL, things like that. These are acronyms. So quasi, what is quasi? Quasi stands for question word, auxiliary, subject, infinitive. Okay, let me say that again. We have question word like the who, what, where, when, why. Question word. You have auxiliary. I'm trying to type this out at the same time. Auxiliary. You have the subject. And you have the infinitive. Infinitive. Okay, so this is quasi. Quasi is when you have the question word, auxiliary, subject, infinitive. So what kind of beer do you like, right? You see the words here on the screen, right? What kind, so that's the question word because kind is part of the what. What kind of beer, so all of that's the question word. What kind of beer do you like? That is the basics or the basis of formulating a question. What kind of beer do you like? What do you do for fun? You see, you could add information after the infinitive, but that is the basic structure. That is how you create an open question. This is how you can start the conversation. But remember, once the conversation is going, that is when you need to just listen, pay attention, be attentive, show like you're paying attention, that active listening, nod your head, right? You want to show interest. You want to be curious, right? People who are generally interested in others are usually interesting themselves. You know why? Well, because they're more open in learning about and understanding new things. So showing interest also encourages the other person you're talking to be relaxed, right? And share information more freely. So one of the ways you can do this or one of the ways you can display attentiveness is by keeping good eye contact, right? Because goes back to what I said about active listening. And so you're paying attention. You're not waiting for your next, the next thing you're gonna say. Don't go into this. Like my fear is you're gonna go into this with like a whole list of questions. Like these are the questions I'm gonna ask, and you're gonna memorize it like a script. That's dangerous because you are painting yourself into a corner. You know what I mean? Like imagine you're painting a floor and you paint all the way in the corner. Now you're trapped. You can have a series of questions memorized that you want to use as starters. Because what do I mean? Because no matter what open question you start with, you're going to eventually run out of like things to say, things to ask. And when that happens, then you could go back to your bag of tricks, to the questions that you've kind of pre-thought of, and start a new trail, start a new train of questions. So this is literally the best way to get a conversation going and to maintain the conversation. Okay. Now, remember what I said about just talking and just asking the questions that you've memorized. No, you ask and you wait and listen, and then you think of new questions. Because what I want you to do is because this is really important. I want you to ensure that there is a balance here. There's a balance of give and take. So a conversation can get boring very fast if one person is doing all the talking, and while the other one is trying to say something, get a word in, and it's not happening because you don't stop or they don't stop, right? So when that happens, whoever is not talking begins to tune out. They begin to you can kind of see it in their face. It's like they just start to get bored. They tune out, and then there's no more conversation. So it's really important that you try to maintain a balance. It's really important when you ask a question, let the person answer. There can be many reasons for this lack of give and take. I understand. Sometimes you maybe who are naturally nervous and shy, you're trying to get out there. And in my experience, for example, teaching people how to give speeches and presentations, one of the key factors that tells me that the person is nervous is they start speaking very quickly. They start talking very fast. Why? Because they want to get it over with. This is like a sign they're just trying to end it. They're trying to just be done with it. Okay. And that way they said, okay, I did it. And this may happen at first, but you got to be careful. So nervousness can get in the way, and you can ramble, blah, 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 blah. You can keep going without realizing it. And this happens to me sometimes when I've been invited on programs, on lives. Sometimes I'm not necessarily nervous. I don't really get that nervous anymore, but I get excited. Like, let's say a person invites me on, and I really think highly of the person. I end up talking too much, and this is something that I myself am improving on. And I understand how this can be a turnoff. So that's why I'm trying to emphasize this point about listening. You speak, you ask a question, and then you listen. Now, for those people who are really nervous, and if you find yourself freezing up, like, oh no, take a deep breath through the nose, hold it in, and then do your best to focus. Focus, smile, genuinely smile with the eyes, smile, and then reflect on what it is you want to say, or how did you get started on the conversation, right? And if the other person is a rambler, blah, 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 the other person just keeps going, and you've tried several times to interject, but you haven't been able to, then you can excuse yourself politely and move on, or you can ask a open-ended question like, do you like this place here? No, I don't. Yeah, me either. I gotta go, and leave. So it's really important to have this balance, right? Now, if you're a person like me, and later on you realize that you were the rambler, God forbid, then at least you will have made the most important step. And that is getting out there, trying the conversation, and there's room for improvement. That you could get better, right? Practice makes perfect. Okay. So that's really important. Really important. Okay. You're going to be asking questions, and you're going to be listening to the other person. All right. Ask questions and listen. Avoid the Aussie. Now, what is Aussie, right? If I say that quasi is the question word auxiliary subject infinitive, can anybody guess what Aussie is? Hey, Marty's here. How you doing, Marty? I'm checking the conversation now. Suben Khan, how you guys doing? Good to see you. Thank you for being here. So if quasi is my acronym for developing open-ended questions, what do you think Aussie is? Do you have any idea what Aussie is? Aussie is the acronym I use for closed questions. So what is that? What is a closed question? It's when you have the auxiliary, subject, type in it too, infinitive. All right. So that is Aussie. ASI, auxiliary, subject, infinitive. So how is this a closed question, whereas the quasi is an open question? Well, auxiliaries are types of verbs. Okay. We have a number of auxiliaries. The most common is do, does, did. But the verb to be in present continuous is an auxiliary. The verb have in perfect tense is an auxiliary. Modal verbs can be considered auxiliaries when you're making questions. I'm not going to get into this grammar now. I've got videos on my channel about modal verbs. I got videos on the perfect tense. I got videos on these things. But the auxiliary is when you're actually starting the question with a verb. Now, what makes this a closed question? Because when you start with the verb, it's yes or no. Can you speak English? Yes or no. Yes, I can. No, I can't. Did you see my last video? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. You see? So it doesn't matter which verb I put there. Have you seen my videos before? Yes, I have. No, I haven't. You see, it doesn't matter what auxiliary verb you put there. The fact that it starts with a verb, you've already kind of limited yourself on how far that conversation is going to go. And I hope that you're lucky enough that the person you're trying to start the conversation with is a good communicator, because they can save you. Otherwise, you got to start thinking of other questions to ask. And that's why I say avoid Aussie questions. Avoid these closed questions. Do not use closed questions to start conversations. They'll get you nowhere. Keep them open. Use the quasi structure. Remember the quasi structure. Question word, auxiliary, subject, infinitive. Okay. That will be your saving grace. Okay. Really important. Ask the question, what are you supposed to do? Listen. Listening, because then doing that, you are going to create other questions. You're going to listen. Now, I've mentioned this earlier, but I want to talk about this again. Be interesting yourself. Have something to say. Like I said, lots of conversations, and the conversations that I'm focusing mostly on are these informal conversations for social gatherings. These are not intellectual conversations where you're talking about the theory of relativity or which is better, cold fusion or hot fusion or whatever. No, you're talking about, the weather. Man, it's been pretty hot lately, don't you think? Yeah, it has been. When is it going to start raining? Yeah, I really don't know. What do you think is best? Rainy weather, sunny weather? You see, and then you could start by something as simple as that. But you yourself, if you're going to take that initiative, right? If you're going to try to practice having confidence and getting out there, you yourself need to try to be interesting and have something to say. Now, while you don't have to be like a comedian, like I said, or an entertainer or someone who's a professional communicator, you do need to be interesting. Otherwise, what do you say? If you're not well informed, like if you're not a person who likes to read or knows about current events, which is nowadays kind of a taboo thing to get involved in conversations because everything now triggers people for some reason. But you can go back to my point about not caring what other people think and ask those kind of taboo questions or get into politics and stuff. But everybody understands the two taboo things to talk about, right? Taboo means you avoid: politics and religion. In Brazil, there's three you avoid. You avoid politics, religion, and soccer, or as they say, right, in England or Brazil, football. You avoid it because you get into fights. You can do it. But all I'm trying to say is when you're going to get into questions, when you're going to use the question words, if you're going to build off of this structure of quasi, be interesting, be informed, know stuff. Don't try to pretend that you are something you're not. Hopefully, something that you find interesting or that you enjoy, the other person you're trying to have the conversation with will find interesting and they will enjoy it as well. That's always the chance. But if you're not well informed, if you tend not to read very much, or you've got very few interests in life, you will have very little to talk about except yourself. And you know what? You may like to talk about yourself, but not everybody wants to talk about themselves. But there is a secret weapon in that mindset. You can ask the other person about them, because most everybody does like to talk about themselves. And if you're a guy interested in a woman, talk about her, ask her questions, show her interest. And you may be surprised. She may say a lot about herself, And remember, go back to that listening key. Listen. Don't just wait for the next thing that you've memorized to talk about. Listen to what they're saying and ask follow-up questions, right? So try to be informed yourself so you're not talking about you. When you're in the conversation, make it about that person. I think I mentioned that in my video last week. Okay. Now, unfortunately, no one wants to hear about your latest troubles, right? Or your latest conquests or your daily routine. There's so many dull conversations believe that what people want to hear is about them. Like, I am the most important person, so listen to me. Here I am on YouTube, but I don't make this about me. I sometimes I will use my life or my experiences as examples because they're funny or they're legitimate, they're real. But like when I'm in conversations or when I'm here on social media, I really don't make it about me because I think I'm interesting, but my goal is to help you with English and to make you a better communicator. So when you're getting a conversation, don't make it about you, make it about them, right? So think about this, like who here, who's watching, who hasn't been stuck with someone at some kind of party, a social event, who just keeps on going and going about their family history, their last job, their last relationship, what they like, what they don't like. It's like, oh my God, save me from this. Well, don't be that person. Now, to avoid being that person, you have the responsibility of becoming knowledgeable about what? World events, people in the news, which I kind of avoid because I don't really care about people in the news, but people do like to talk about it. What's going on locally? Right now, a lot of it is about this COOF, right? C-19, the vaccine, things like this. But that can be a delicate subject nowadays. But regardless, be knowledgeable, read things, look at the newspaper, watch what's on TV. Maybe there's a popular show on Netflix that people are liking. I remember when Game of Thrones was on TV, everyone was talking about Game of Thrones, so have something to say. Take the time to keep up with the latest music, for example, or new technology, or, recent best gadget on the market, whatever, but try to have something. But don't, no one knows everything. I know a lot of people think that they do. A lot of people they make it look like they do, but no one knows everything. So if you can enlighten someone during a conversation, it's impressive. And it's interesting. I've learned in life, you could always learn something from someone, right? So try to be that kind of interesting person, all right. So ask questions, listen, pay attention to what's being said. This will help you to make follow-up questions. This will help you to carry the conversation going. Keep a balance. Don't just talk. Make it about the other person. Ask them questions. That keeps them involved, right? My brother, hey, Matt, what's up? You want to see my new tattoo? I don't know if you really can see it. It's right there. I'll show you later. Anyways, but keep it about the other person. Pay attention to what's happening. What else is really important here is it's another Finn. He's in Colorado, my bro. So keep it about the other person. Make them questions because they're going to like to talk about themselves. Pay attention to what they're saying. What's important for you, the person who is starting the conversation, you want to be chill. You want to be relaxed. You want to be yourself. Be yourself. Don't be a poser. Don't try to imitate someone that you like, someone you saw on TV, some pickup artist. If you try to do that, you may be successful once or twice, but it's not going to work all the time. It's not going to work all the time. So my advice to you is once you get it going, never forget to be yourself. Be a genuine, be chill. Just be relaxed. I mean, even if someone rejects you, whatever. If you're on edge, if you're trying to be someone you're not, it will show. It will show. And therefore, you've doomed the conversation. It's gonna fail before it starts, right? Now, if you're not relaxed, it's hard to appear if you are. So what do? Slow down, smile, take a deep breath. Remember, think about what you want to talk about. Right? If you don't do your best to relax, you're going to end up saying something stupid, something silly, something unintelligible, unrelated to the conversation you're trying to either start or the conversation you found yourself in the middle of. Right? Smile genuinely, warmly. Right? This will help make the appearance that you're cool, that you're relaxed. Smiling is more opening. It makes people want to approach you more. Right? So remember that, right? Okay. To start a conversation, you go up to someone and introduce yourself. It's polite. You just start talking, right? When the occasion calls for it, you can offer a handshake, right? Sometimes people don't like it, especially nowadays. People like to touch. So you can do a fist bump, elbow bump, whatever, but be friendly. So that's basically it, right? When it comes to a lot of motorcycles, man. Sorry, but anyways, that's basically when it comes to starting the conversation and maintaining the conversation, right? Practice makes perfect. Put yourself in situations where you're gonna build your confidence, you're gonna work on charisma, and you're gonna be practicing conversations. Now, what I want to do here is I want to kind of get into some things that you can talk about, things you should avoid, things that will make good conversations. But like I said, this is going to depend a lot on where exactly you are. I have notes here, right? So you could have, if you just, let's say you're at a very light situation, you're at a friend's house, friends throwing a party, and you want to do some like funny conversations, you can ask stupid questions like, if you were in a circus, which character would you be? Would you be the strong man? Would you be, the acrobat on the trapeze? Or what's the worst advice someone has ever given you? Now that can be taboo in other situations, but you're at a friend's house. So this is kind of easy going. What's the worst present you've ever received? This might be interesting because let's say this is somebody received a really bad present and they just love to talk about it. Like, can you believe this person gave me that? If you're talking to girls, right? Girls like to take selfies. You could be like, hey, what's the best part about taking selfies? Like, I personally don't like taking selfies. I don't understand it, but you can ask all kinds of weird questions like that. If you're getting into a deep conversation, let's say you're at a place with people who they're thinkers, they're smart people. It's kind of halfway between formal and informal. But let's say you're at a convention, you're becoming friends with people, and you can start asking questions to get to know a person better. Like, what are the top 3 things on your bucket list? Or if you could ask for a miracle, what would it be? And so these questions goes back to that point I was making about making it about the other person. If you could give someone, look, if someone gave you an envelope, right, with your death, with the date of your death inside of it, would you open it? That's a good question, huh? What's your idea of the perfect day or the perfect meal? I've often asked someone before, if this was your last day, like let's say you're on death row in the United States, you're given your last meal, what would it be? I've already thought of this one myself. Say you're at a couples party and you're talking to couples. You can ask things that relate both people, right? What makes you very sentimental, huh? Or what's the best and worst trait you inherited from your parents? I could ask anybody. So these are different things. And again, all of these questions that I've put here on a list that I've made, I might put some of these in the description, but these are questions that you're making it about the other person. And you listen. And as you listen, you think of more questions. First date questions, right? What's something not many people know about you? What are you most passionate about? What makes you laugh? What makes you laugh out loud? What was your favorite thing to do as a kid? What's your favorite TV show? Read? What's your favorite book? You see, I asked that question first as a close question. Do you like to read? Because if they say yes, I have the backup question. What is your favorite book? But if they say no, then I just move on to another question that I've thought of. You see, so it's okay sometimes to ask these closed questions, but you just gotta, be prepared. Have a game plan, a strategy. Right? This is an art. Who's the most influential person in your life? Right? How do you? What was your best friend's name growing up? Is this person still your friend? What do you do? Do you go to school? Do you work? Oh, you go to school. What's your favorite subject? Are you almost done? Yeah. What's your dream job? If you could have any job in the world, what would it be? And you see, I'm going through these questions really quick, but think about it. Think about it. You're on a date and you're talking. This can go on for a long time because the person can take that question and give you a huge answer. And as you're listening, you're taking mental notes on other questions to ask. All right. So you're on a date, so everybody's an adult. But what did you want to be when you were a kid? You see, so these here are questions that you're asking a person, and it's about them. Ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. Right. Let me look at the chat. Let me look at the chat. Here, another Finn, have to. Okay, sir. You miss every shot you don't take. That's right. You miss every shot you do not take. We have an expression in English in the States. We say, I think it can be translated in every other culture, in every other country. You never get a second chance to make a first impression, right? So I personally regret things that I haven't done more than the things that I've done. And that was something that helped me growing up. Like, that's my brother, guys, Matthew Finn. And he could tell you, I was always a talker. I was never afraid to get into conversations. I got shot down a lot, but whatever. This goes back to what I said earlier, right? What did I say earlier? Don't care what people think. But like I said, it's so liberating to at least say you took a chance, right? At least say you tried it. You miss every shot you don't take. That goes with sports, that goes with life, that goes with opportunity. Good, Khan. Start conversations. Be open, be warm, be interesting. Say hello. Say hello to a stranger. I mean, seriously, guys, a smile goes a long way. Smile at someone. If they make eye contact with you, like I said, nowadays it's really hard. Everyone's got their face down in their phones. But if someone makes eye contact with you, smile, right? Just smile. Just don't shoot your shot in the middle of a hug. Yeah, I think that's good. That's good advice to a lot of the teenagers, right? Let's see what Marty says. I always ask, how many sticks of gum are you chewing now? That's a good one. Those of you who are single, and those of you who are in the dating market, and those of you who are using dating apps, I want to direct you to Nutshot's channel. My friend Marty here, he's creating content for you on how to be successful on dating apps. So you can take both what I'm explaining and teaching here as far as conversations and the lessons that Marty on his channel teaches you on how to navigate these dating apps and be successful, and you can get there. You can do it. All right. Here's some more questions. Best friend, name? Are you still my credit card? Safety questions? That's funny. All right, because you have those security questions. I get it. Diogenes, how you doing, my friend? What would help to turn a stranger into a friend? The only thing that could really turn a stranger into a friend is common interests. Common interests. I like to say friends are the family that we make. This is the reason why we often have better relationships with friends than our actual brothers and sisters and cousins. We don't choose the people that we're born into, that family we're born into, but friends that we choose. We have another expression in English about birds of a feather flock together. That means you're always going to see birds of their same kind in nature. Well, that's the same with people. That's the exact same with people. You're not going to see two people be friends if they do not have more things in common than not. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have everything in common. There's lots of people that I will consider a friend that I don't see completely eye to eye with on politics, on theology, on many things. But there are enough things that we do have in common that we can relate with, that can maintain a friendship. So what would help to turn a stranger into a friend? Well, first you got to get to know the stranger. First, you got to approach the stranger. You got to introduce yourself. You got to start talking, asking questions. Marty has a good answer there, right? Common enemies. My enemy is my friend. I always go back to World War II with that comment. Unfortunately, a lot of people know history anymore, but the Allies, right? United States, England, they allied with Russia. It's communists. Why did they ally with the communists? Because the Nazis, the National Socialists, German Nazis, were the enemy of the Allied forces and the enemies of Russia. So the enemy is my friend. Now, that kind of friendship is not going to go very long. I don't think it's going to have a very long shelf life as far as the future. But it's a way to start. The best advice here is first you got to meet the person. You got to talk to the person. You got to get to know the person. You got to ask questions. And then that's when you start to discover same interests, things in common. And when you have that, that's when you can start to build that friendship, that bond, and you can start setting other dates, other encounters. All right. It's my pleasure, Khan. My pleasure. Watch it. You could save this video and watch it later. I'm no expert. Okay. I don't want to claim to anybody that I'm an expert at this topic of starting conversations. What I'm doing is I'm trying to take the skills, the things that I've learned in life that have worked for me. In the first video I did, the first live, I explained my story a little better, but I've lived in 2 different countries, 3 different states. I don't know how many cities. I don't know how many different schools I've gone to. I don't know how many times I'm at a place and nobody knows me. And to my luck, to my advantage, I'm not a shy person. So I start conversations. And what I'm sharing with you are the things that worked for me. And I want them to work for you as well. I want you, Khan, and anybody else who's watching this, to develop new friendships. We're humans. We're not meant to be alone, right? We're not meant to be alone. We're meant to engage. We're not an island unto ourselves. What I think is happening nowadays in the world, I don't agree with. I don't agree that we need to lock up everybody. I think people who are sick or vulnerable, okay, but let the healthy people engage, interact. What's happening is not healthy. It's not healthy for our bodies because we're not getting vitamin D from the sun. We're not getting a lot of exercise, but it's not good for our mind, for our mental health. We're not socializing. We're socializing here. We're chatting with people, but we're not engaging, and we're meant to engage. So I've had a lot of experience just being the new person in a place. So like I said, I'm not an expert at this, but I've done this a lot. Let's see what Marty says. The most fun people at bars are the ones who are friendly and talk to everyone in a positive way. That's it. So that goes, Marty, to my last video from last week about building charisma, confidence, charisma, and to be charming. And I think I explained it in that last video. People are like, well, aren't confident people charming? And I was like, no. I would say that every charming person or every charismatic person is confident, but not every confident person is charismatic. And like, what's the difference? A confident person is going to step out, is going to be outgoing, is going to start the conversation, going to engage, but maybe they're egocentrical. Maybe they think too highly of themselves and they're the ones that are talking too much. Whereas a charismatic person, a charming person by definition, is a person you like to be around, a person whose energy is good. Smiling is key. Big eyes, big smile. Don't be goofy. Don't make it like keep it real, keep it genuine. But my friend Nutshot here, he's got it. Talkative, outgoing, laughing. Everybody likes to laugh. Why sometimes we see a good-looking woman with an average guy? I think there's two reasons. One, he's got money, right? I mean, I know this is like a taboo thing to say, not very politically correct, but he's got money. Women want status. Not all, though. The other option, he's funny. He's confident. He's fun to be around. And I've seen women, I know of women who've hung out with guys, who've dated guys who are confident, funny guys, hardworking guys. And that's why my last video building up to this topic was this idea of developing confidence. Because if you do not have confidence, or if you don't even try to develop and build confidence, you're never going to be able to start conversations. You're never going to be able to get yourself out there. It's going to be like, oh my gosh, I'd rather stand in front of a firing squad and be executed than to put myself out there. And I understand. I talked about this in the last video. I'm not going to go into it too much today, but I understand. I understand the theory behind it, but I don't understand it personally. I don't, because I'm not like this. Good to see you, Alfredo. So I attribute most of my success in life to my confidence and the ability that I've had to develop charisma. And because of that, communicating with people, talking with people, engaging with people, making friends with people. What did I say earlier? If you're going to be interesting, if you're going to say something interesting, you have to be interesting yourself. If you want to meet friendly people, you have to be friendly yourself, right? It does. It's true. It does. But practice makes perfect. You got to get out there and you got to learn how to take the hits. You got to learn how to take rejection, because I know it's hard. I know it hurts. It's a jab to your ego. I know I've been rejected. Of course I have, but whatever. I mean, this goes back to my point about not caring what the person says, or not caring what the people think, whatever. You have to have this idea. And this goes back to that confidence. You have to have this idea like, hey, it's their loss. It's their loss. It's not my loss. They're the ones that are missing out on the party called Mike, So that's the key. All right, guys. Now, let's summarize this. Okay. When it comes to conversations, when it comes to how to start a conversation, you want to be confident. If you haven't seen my video on how to build confidence, I put a link in the description. Check out that video. I go into some details and some tools and some techniques on how to build confidence, how to make yourself more charismatic, build charisma. Try not to care what other people think. They don't know you. They don't pay your bills. Their opinions about you doesn't do anything, really. So don't give up that power. You have the power of how your attitude is going to be. Don't give them that power. Don't care. Be yourself. Be calm. Be relaxed. Be knowledgeable. And start off with talking, right? What does Alfredo say here? You got to take a leap. There's no way to achieve something without trying. That's right. My brother made a good comment about that too. You miss every shot you do not take. Yeah. Thanks, man. Everything's doing well. I'm trying to do my best to make you all better, right? There's always room for each and every one of us to grow. So as I summarize this video, how to start a conversation, have confidence, learn to be charismatic, don't care about what other people think, be yourself, be genuine, be relaxed, be knowledgeable, have an idea of what you're going to talk about, ask questions, start by introducing yourself, ask the person who they are, right? Remember my talk about the open and closed questions. Avoid the closed questions. Keep them open. What are open questions? Open questions use these question words: who, what, where, when, why, how. There's others: whose, whom. All right, but keep to these 6 words because these ones will not guide you wrong. Remember, there's a structure: question word, auxiliary, subject, adjective. What do you like? Where's your favorite place? You know, things like that. But keep these questions open. Okay. And that's basically it. Avoid the closed questions. Avoid these closed questions because these are conversation enders. Yes or no questions. They're bad, right? And that's it. I'm gonna kind of wrap this up. I'll leave this here. If there's anything about me you want to know, fire away. But my objective, I feel I've done the job. I wanted to give you guys my tips, what I think is effective on how to start conversations and how to maintain conversations, how to keep conversations going, because it's one thing to start a conversation, it's another thing to keep it going. And I've noticed people who are trying, and it's good, like Marty said, practice, and you start a conversation, but then you get stuck. You don't know what to do. So I was trying to give you both tips on how to start and maintain a conversation. Yeah, good. Don't really care. Don't care. I mean, don't be a jerk though. I mean, don't be a nice guy. Be presentable and be a good person. Just whatever. They don't like how you're dressed. That's their problem. You know, they don't like how your hair is. Whatever. I mean, that's what I kind of mean by that, right? So there's a few people whose opinions about me that I care about. But for the most part, whatever. Especially if I don't know you, whatever. Like, okay, you don't like it, whatever. Like I said, the problem's yours, not mine. Right? So good. Right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this. I really hope this was beneficial for you. I really hope that you get out there and you're able to kick butt when it comes to making and starting conversations. Share with me what you've done. Share with me in the comment section. Let me know if the tips I've given you have helped you in any way, right? Because I really want to know. Because I'm not investing my time here just to invest my time. If you don't leave a comment here, check me out on Instagram, right? Here's my tag, English with Mr. Finn. Get in contact with me. DM me if you have questions. I make myself available to you. Now, obviously, I'm a private teacher. If you want classes, that's a different conversation. But if you have doubts, if you have questions, if you want to share any success stories, man, I would love to hear it. I would really, really love to hear it, right? What does my friend say? I like so much the way you express yourself, Mike. Thank. It's great. Oh, Alfredo. No, man. Thank you, bro. I love you, man. That's a good guys. That's a good friend of mine, Alfredo. Thank you, sir. I enjoy what I do. And that's the key. And when it comes to conversations, it's the same thing. You have to be interesting. You have to be communicative. You have to smile. And it's going to be tough for a lot of you at first, right? It's got to be tough, right? Rock on. Thanks, blood. I appreciate it. Do your best. Get out there. Practice your English. Practice your conversation skills. Practice your engagements. Don't be too shy. I know it's hard, but just get out there. What's the worst that's going to happen? Just think about that. What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to say no. They may laugh. Whatever. Who cares? Like I said, do what I've practiced. I would rather you regret not having tried than trying. Because at the end of the day, later in life, you could think, you know what? I didn't have a lot of success in the beginning, but at least I tried. And that is what's important. Get out there and make yourself a better version of you. I'm Mr. Finn. I'm here doing my best to make you better in English, in life, in any aspect that I find I can help you with. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you think that this can be a help to somebody, please share this video with them. I know it's a little long, but it's full of stuff. I did my best to make you better. I'm Mr. Finn, and I'll catch you later. Bam!
Yeah, baby, yeah.